Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Weiland, as I identified in my opening remarks, there have been a number of cuts to the INL Bureau that I think will have a significant impact on the work of the Bureau. So can you talk about how you will continue to effectively operate given those program cuts and the number of dealing with a budget that's 80% less than in previous years?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that question, Senator Shaheen. And before I get to your answer, I wanted to commend you on what you've done in New Hampshire regarding reducing overdose deaths. One thing we often point to is overdose deaths across the U.S. falling right now. But that's a little bit more complicated than that, because in certain states it's rising quite drastically. In other states it's falling precipitously. In New Hampshire, over the last year, meth and fentanyl overdoses declined by 17%, which is a testament to everything that you've done, as well as folks on the local level.
Thank you. Let me just comment on that, because I think you're right, but it has been the result of more than 10 years of work at the state and local level with federal support from treatment and recovery programs, from making sure that Narcan is available to people throughout the state, working with law enforcement, with schools, with mental health agencies. So as you know, it's really requires a comprehensive approach, and that's one reason I'm concerned about the lack of the loss at INL of support staff and programming.
Yes, ma'am. I understand your concern, and I think what the President's budget, which of course came over to you all and which you all will deliberate over and make your own decisions on, I think what the cuts you're referring to forced INL to do is to take a hard look at its programming. I think over the years there's been a temptation to just slap the counter-narcotics label onto programming and just assume that the programs are effective. And what we saw in the early days of this administration when we started scrutinizing programming was that oftentimes our own internal analyses showed that these programs were ineffective. And so what we tried to do was to streamline, to cut where we just weren't seeing the results that we needed to see, and then obviously to continue to fund the programs that we thought were most effective.
One of the other areas that INL has done very good work has been with Ukraine in helping to address corruption in that country and to work with their civilian security and law enforcement organizations. And I support that excellent work. But again, I was concerned that there were real cuts to the rule of law programming. And can you speak to why that is and how you can continue to ensure that U.S. supports anti-corruption work there?
Yes, ma'am. I think the first priority of President Trump when it comes to Ukraine is to end the war and to stop the killing. And so what we've done with INL, or what the INL Bureau has done since the beginning of the administration, is to continue to fund hard security programs, like, for example, the mobile firing teams that are so pivotal in preventing attacks on civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. So that takes a variety of forms, but ammunition, weaponry, armored vehicles and the like. So all of that has continued. We're also continuing to fund some of the entities like NABU and SAPO, which are the investigative and prosecutorial entities inside Ukraine that are taking a hard look at corruption internally and that are so pivotal to ensuring a fair playing ground for American businesses that are operating in the country as well. So I think that the corruption and the hard security programs have continued. One area that I think may have been scaled back slightly is, for example, in the war crimes area, and that is a result of our conversations with the Europeans. The EU and the UK are both eager to take on more of that burden. And so, as a result of those conversations, we found it prudent to not be duplicative and redundant of what our partners were doing.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're still committed to those efforts. You were the senior bureau official at INL when the Trump administration negotiated a deal to send more than 200 Venezuelan deportees to the CECOT prison in El Salvador. There are credible reports of human rights abuses, including torture, sexual violence committed against these deportees. Do you approve providing $4.7 million to El Salvador to continue this kind of deal, taking prisoners and then torturing them?
Senator Shaheen, we have a very productive working relationship with El Salvador under
well, I'm not questioning the working relationship. I'm questioning spending money to send detainees to El Salvador to a prison where they're mistreated.
Well, Senator Shaheen, respectfully, the State Department is not in the business of deportations. I'd refer you to DHS for anything regarding that. What we did send was, as you alluded to, $4.7 million to address anti-crime and criminal justice needs inside El Salvador. At the time that I was senior bureau official, none of that money had been spent. The country, El Salvador, is under strict obligations to report on how they're using those funds. There's no indication thus far as I'm aware of, that any of it has gone to the CECOT prison to which you alluded.
Well, can I get your commitment that if you are confirmed, that you will ensure that there is an investigation into how deportees are being handled at that prison, and that none of our taxpayer money is going to provide support for the El Salvadorians
I would be happy to commit
torture and terrorism in the prison?
I would be happy to commit to following up on that with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.